On behalf of the family, I want to thank everybody for being here, and I also want to thank those of us who are joining on the live stream. Officiating our service today is Rabbi Barry Schechter. Thank you.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני, מי יגור באוהלך, מי ישכון בהר קודשך, הולך תמים ופועל צדק, ודובר אמת בלבבו, לא רגל לשונו, לא עשה לרעהו רע, וחרפה לא נשא על קרובו. נבזה בעיניו נמאס, ואת ירא אדוני יכבד, נשבע להרע, ולא יאמיר, כספו לא נתן בנשך, ושוחד הנקי לא לקח. עושה אלה לא ימות לעולם. God, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain, those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who give their word and come what may do not retract, who do not exploit others, those who live in this way shall never be shaken. Dear friends, we're here for a sad and difficult occasion to say goodbye, which is one of the most difficult things we can ever do, but also to pay tribute and to honor the memory, and even, if possible, to celebrate the life of Mona Sklamberg, the daughter of Louis and Esther, Mona Bat Yaakov Leib, the Esther Bela, who's gone to eternal rest at the age of 92, and leaves behind a family and friends who loved her very, very dearly. Her children, Sandra and her Robert, then her son Robert and David, and grandchildren, Mark and his Anne, Rachel, Jacqueline, great-grandchild Adrian. Is that Adrian we were hearing from before? A great career beckons, I think. And, of course, brother Richard and his Eileen. I should also mention the late sister Harriet and her late husband Cy, and their nephews, nieces, great-nephews, great-nieces. I think there's even a great, is it niece or nephew now? Niece, okay, yeah. And we're going to begin by hearing from the family. So I'm going to call, first of all, Sandra, if you can come up, please, to speak about your mother.
Thank you. Well, here we are again. Those of you who were at Harriet's funeral less than 7 weeks ago know what I'm referring to. Two sisters died 6 weeks apart. Sisters who were very close all their lives and spent every Saturday together until about 2 years ago when my mother had to go into a nursing home. They spent their Saturdays going out to lunch, shopping, movies, and just being sisters. A whole generation gone so suddenly. Just a few days before my mom's death, I was in Ithaca, New York, with my whole family attending Jackie's graduation from Cornell University when she received her master's degree. We were all so happy then. Then 2 days later, my mom passed away, and we were all so sad. Life is like that. a roller coaster of highs and lows. My mother would have loved to attend that graduation. Obviously, she couldn't, but she did attend many other graduations here in Illinois and in Arizona. And she was always so proud of all her grandchildren and was their loudest cheerleader. She was also fortunate to live long enough to meet her great-grandson, Adrian, who's here today and made his presence known. She probably would have loved that. My mother also loved her job at the Skokie Courthouse, where she worked for 30 years until she was 88 years old, full-time. She would have continued working had she not have fallen and broken her hip in the fall of 2019. Her job entailed that she answered the phone at the courthouse and directed callers to other extensions or gave them information. She once received a call from a man who wanted a continuance for his traffic ticket over the phone. He insisted that he needed the continuance over the phone and told her his name. She told him, "You have to come in and ask the judge. You can't get a continuance over the phone." He replied, "Don't you know who I am? My name is Scottie Pippen." She told him, "I don't care who you are, mister. You have to come in and ask the judge for a continuance." She had no idea who it was. She later found out. My mom was a special lady who was never aloof and talked to everybody she met. She was a source of positive reinforcement to me and my family. She was a wonderful grandmother and mother. She was loved by many people, her family and coworkers, who made accommodations for her so she could continue to work at the courthouse in her later years when it became difficult for her. Rest in peace, Mom. We will all miss you, and we love you.
Thank you, Sandra. And now, Bob.
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank you for honoring my mother and our family today. While my mother's death was not unexpected, you're never really prepared for something like this. 14 months ago, I received a call from the nursing home she was at saying that she had really declined and needed to enter hospice immediately. It was made clear to me that it appeared to them that she was dying. So that was October of 21. They also told me when I met with them that you never know, sometimes people respond very well to the added care and attention that they get, that they receive in hospice. And boy, did she, because 14 months later, here we are today. And I'd like to take this opportunity, I don't know if any of them are here, but to recognize the outstanding care and love and attention she got at Glenview Terrace Nursing Home, particularly from Linda, Rebecca, and Enrique, who candidly my mom had a crush on. And she spent the last year of her life talking about asking if he was available, and she thought he was a doctor. She referred to him as Dr. Enrique, even though he was a tech there. And particularly, the company that Glenview Terrace contracts with is called Suncrest Hospice. And there was someone who took care of my mom most of the year. Her name was Jenny. We always refer to her as Jenny Suncrest. And I don't know how human beings are made like this, but she is a saint of a person. And I spoke with her on a regular basis, and she looked after my mom like a daughter. And when I received the call on Tuesday at a meeting at work from her, and I knew this wasn't good because Jenny always calls me in the car after her work. between 5 and 6, and Jenny was fighting back tears, and broke the sad news to me, and has told me on more than one occasion since what an honor it was for her to take care of my mother for the past year. And I would say this, in that time, quality of life is relative. And while my mother was in the dementia ward of a nursing home for 2 years and in hospice for 14 months, she did get some quality from her life there. And she enjoyed the visits, and nothing made her light up more than that little guy who I now hear out in the hall, her great-grandson, Adrian. So as my sister said, she had worked for the clerk of the circuit court for 31 years, and yes, they made accommodations for her. For example, in the winter, when my mother's balance was starting to deteriorate, deputy sheriffs would come out to the car and help her into the courthouse, and from the courthouse back to the car, so she wouldn't slip. This year, 2022, has been a bad year for losing mothers. Obviously, I've lost mine at 92. My friends Greg and Tom lost their mothers this year, both at 94. And my friend John lost his mother just a few weeks shy of her 90th birthday. And we have variously throughout the year attended wakes, funerals, etc. And we have talked about for someone to live to almost 90 or into their 90s in relatively good health most of that time, surrounded by a loving family. And in my mom's case, with a career that she loved and had a work family for 31 years, we regarded that as a celebration of life, as sad as it is to see them go. And I would also, as my sister said, I know my cousins, Michael and Alan, are here, and they lost their mother 6 weeks ago. My mom died on Tuesday. It was 6 weeks prior to that, to the day, Tuesday to Tuesday, 6 weeks apart. And my sister has already stolen the Scottie Pippen story from me. But let me add, at the end of that story, when she told Scottie Pippen, when he said, "Ma'am, don't you know who I am? I'm Scottie Pippen," and she said, "Well, I'm Mona Sklamberg. You're still coming to court on October 24th." And then here I am at work. I'm in my office. How do I know this story even in the first place? Because I'm in my office, my inside line rings, which only family and friends use. I answer hello, it's my mother. "Yeah, who's Scottie Pippen?" So I know we have other speakers. My mother's grandchildren are at the far end, who she adored. So I want to make time for them. But I want to thank you again for coming here today to honor my mom.
Oops. Thank you. And now we're going to hear from Richard, who will speak to us about his sister.
Thank you. I will be brief and try not to be too repetitive. I want to thank everyone for coming. This is not easy to be traveling in this weather. We've gone from 0 to this weekend is going to be 50 degrees. This is just crazy, this weather. And I know some of the folks are here with canes and walkers, and I appreciate so much that they came and asked that they please be careful when leaving. My brother-in-law is having surgery tomorrow. I want to wish him luck, good fortune. And my sister, Mona Nadine, was named for her grandmothers. Mona was named for my mother's mother, Mary Fishman, and Nadine, the N, came from my dad's mother, Nellie Rubenstein, who unfortunately died just months after my father was born. So she is buried in New York, and sometime years ago I did finally find her grave and so forth. But that's who Mona is named for. My relationship with Mona was very unique. First of all these years, I never had a crossword with Mona, ever. We got along. She was easygoing, and one of her outstanding characteristics, she always asked, how's Eileen? How's the kids? How's the grandchildren? Who's moving to Israel? She would get confused with that. But she was genuinely always interested in my family. And so that was a special quality of my sister. As was mentioned earlier, she had a lot of jobs in her life. She did telemarketing for some of these construction companies. She was in real estate. She worked for Elrod Realty. And her shining moment, as discussed, was working at the courthouse for 30 plus years. She made a lot of friends there. She was highly thought of. Probably 50% of the calls got through. The other 50, I don't know what happened, but so be it. But she was a charming woman and very low-key, did not have a mean bone in her body. In terms of travel, she never traveled much, but she was blessed to go to Israel with my parents once. And what she did there was amazing because she was able to make contact with cousins, and those relationships lasted for quite some time. Cousins that had fallen off, we didn't know they existed, we had no relationship with them, and it was Mona's doing that got us to have that relationship with them. One cousin was named Hannah and Gita, and then we became friendly with Hannah's grandchildren. We used to send the boys sportswear, especially when the Bulls were hot back in the 90s and so forth. So that was all the doing of my sister Mona. Like any her age, she had her share of illnesses. Anyone who lives, north of 90, stuff's going to happen. But she always prevailed, whether it was broken bones, this or that. One fond memory I have is my dad and my sister Mona were both at the University of Chicago on the same floor, 2 rooms apart. Both had colon surgery by the Kerzner group, and successful, and it was really weird that the both of them were maybe 20 feet apart for a considerable length of time. My sister Mona, as Sandy alluded to, loved her sister Harriet. When I would visit at the nursing home, always the first question, how's Harriet? How's Harriet? So now after 6 weeks, they're reunited. They were very close. Mona had a lovely relationship with Harriet, and I hope that will continue into the next life. Her grandchildren adored my sister. They called her Nana, and they had a special relationship with Mona that you could see instantaneously upon being in the same room with them. The love, the respect was special, and I know that the grandchildren will have that with them for the rest of their lives. Our home. We had many holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Pesach, this, that. Mona would be at our house. Many times we went out to eat with Eileen and Harriet and Mona. So I have wonderful memories of that. Mona loved desserts. Whenever we went out to eat, she had to have some kind of sweet. But she always made a habit of telling him it was her birthday, so maybe she could get a freebie. So what good, if any, comes from this? Sometimes they say some good will come from everything bad or unfortunate. The good that came from this is the numerous days that I spent with my nephew Bob, my niece Sandy, Mark and Ann, and now AJ. Being at the nursing home and spending hours with them enhanced my relationship with them. It was definitely a bonus from my sister being in the nursing home, spending additional time with them that I otherwise would not have been able to spend. And I cherish those moments. And I used to love to act immature, which I'm known to do, and crack jokes and get my sister to laugh. And when I did, that really made me feel so good. So in thinking about what I'm going to miss most, it's going to be her laugh and me succeeding in making her laugh. I always kissed her on her kepi, the forehead, when I would see her and when I would leave. I'm really going to miss that because I used to kiss my dad in the same way. And I'm going to miss mostly the genuine interest that she had in my family, in my children, Eileen, my grandchildren, my daughter-in-law who started her own business during COVID and so forth. Mona was very supportive, always rooting for people to do well. She was really an Aisha Skyle, a nice person. May she rest in peace. She's reunited with our mom and dad and with her beloved sister. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rich. And now we're going to hear from Mark.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Richard, I think you summed it up really well in terms of how we viewed our Nana. Our Nana was just the best, and we adored her. And it was hard to think about exactly what to say because the last 2 years were tough. It was tough to see her in the nursing home. It was tough, especially the last year or so, where she wasn't always in the best of shape. But one of the things that I'm grateful for is that during this and being able to consider kind of what I wanted to say, I got to reflect a little bit on Nana and all the times we shared. I mean, I'm 41 years old, and I think it's not unusual, but it's not, most people don't get to have their grandmother until they're 41. I had all my grandparents for pretty late in my life, and I'm gonna miss having them around, but I'm very grateful that I did. I'm very grateful that she was able to meet my wife. I got married later, so there was no guarantees for that, and I'm very lucky that she got to be at our wedding. I'm grateful that she was able to meet my son, Adrian, at a time when she was able to still appreciate it for a little bit. She was able to be around when my wife was pregnant, and she was extremely excited about it. She talked about it all the time, and when he was born, for a little bit of time there, she really appreciated Adrian. She was able to appreciate Adrian, so I'm very grateful for that. When my father met my mom, and they decided to marry in 1986, he was bringing along a lot of baggage with him, the baggage being me. For my mother, I am sure that it wasn't easy to marry somebody who already had a 5-year-old. I know it wasn't easy to have me move in and her take over parenting duties for me 2 years after that. Through stories I've heard since I know from those times, there was no bigger supportive of me than my Nana. If I didn't have her in my corner cheerleading for me along the way, who knows if my life would have turned out as it did. From the moment Nana came into my life, she became my grandma. Her love and support helped provide stability for me at a foundational time in my life when I needed it. For that alone, she will always hold a special place in my heart. When I think of Nana, the first thing I think about immediately is that Nana was a character. When I describe Nana to anybody, I would say that she was a hoot. I would use adjectives like she was a hoot. She was wacky, she was zany, she was all these things, and they were always in the most endearing and amazing way. She was a very special person. She would have been a great TV sitcom grandma, and she wouldn't even need to know how to act because you could just let her loose and humor would ensue. She was always the life of the party. Nana always talked about winning the lottery. She was completely convinced that one day she would win the lottery. She was also convinced that she would change our lives with her winnings. She wasn't just unrealistically optimistic about her own fortunes, but also those of us, her grandchildren. In Nana's eyes, we were perfect. And if anyone didn't see it, well, they must just be crazy. We could be president, we could be CEO, heck, my sister could marry anyone no matter how rich and famous they were, or even if they were frankly already married or not. It didn't matter. She was this way with her kids, too. There's an infamous story about my mom when my mom was giving birth to one of my sisters, and my Nana bringing Bobby back to the delivery room to try to set her up with the OBGYN. Classic Nana. Nana, you were such a champion for all of us. Nana was also scrappy. She was full of surprises. Up until the last couple of years, over most of the last 15 years or so, she was a walking miracle. She could be in and out of the hospital one day and walking to the pace bus the next in 20 below to go to work. I'm pretty sure that she was the only person that was living in Embark Senior Living who still worked, let alone took public transportation to do so at 88. I don't think Nana actually ever officially left her job at the Skokie Courthouse because up until last Tuesday, we all thought there was always a chance that she would pop up from her wheelchair and go hail a cab, go back to work. My Nana was one of a kind, and we are going to miss her. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. And now, Rachel and Jackie, are you coming up together? Or? No. Okay, Rachel.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. For those of you that don't know, I'm Rachel, Nana's granddaughter. I've been dreading this day for a long time because I thought and she thought she was going to live forever. Mona was one of a kind and original. She was a real estate agent, for those of you that don't know, and a chief executive at the Cook County Courthouse. I would like to take a moment and give a shout out to the Cook County Courthouse for keeping this lady alive for 31 years, not only until she was 88, but giving her a well-deserved promotion towards the end of her tenure. Thank you, guys. One of my fondest moments is when Nana visited me in Arizona for my college graduation. We went to Guadalajara Grill for dinner with my friends, and she miscalculated, or she lied, and said it was her birthday for a free dessert and an aluminum foil swan hat. The mariachi band came to sing Feliz Cumpleaños, and Nana got up to dance with them, clapping her hands, laughing, and my friends thought that she was the coolest, and you really were. On a serious note, words can't describe what this woman meant to me. She was a force of positivity that filled the room with laughter. I admired her spunk, grit, no filter attitude, and her ability to love anyone unconditionally. Nana, I will always carry your memory on with me for generations to come. I love you, and in your honor tonight, I'm going to buy a lottery ticket. Love you.
Thank you, Rachel and Jackie.
All right. Well, hi, guys. Not here in the best of terms. I do want to start, though, by acknowledging my great aunt that I could not attend her funeral while I was in school and only a few weeks before my grandmother, so Auntie Harriet. And so Nana and I shared a lot of similarities. She has a mouth, or had a mouth. I have a really loud mouth. She was very political. I was very political. She was very progressive. I was very progressive. And one thing that I noticed about my Nana is every time she would ask me, have I met a man yet? There was one in particular friend that I had growing up that is a Jewish doctor, and for years and years and years, are you married yet? Are you married yet? One day, she did go to the hospital. I received a call from my friend saying, is your mother, or your grandmother, Mona Sklamberg? And I said, are you serious? Are you seeing my grandmother? And probably breaking HIPAA as telling me this, but I was happy that he gave me a call. I told my mom, and she couldn't believe it either. And I was generally concerned that when he walked into the room to introduce himself, that she would probably have a heart attack and die on that in the room, because she has wanted me to marry that man forever. But at the same time, it never happened, so I'm sorry, Nana. But even though he would be the picture-perfect Jewish doctor that I think every Jewish grandmother would want their granddaughter to have, she never cared about the person, their religion, their background. She always wanted me to be happy, wanted my sister, wanted my brother to be happy. She was a very accepting woman. And I remember that one time I went to Jakarta, Indonesia, and I bought her a necklace that was a Star of David that had Nana engraved into it. Years had passed. She comes to the house and says that she has a present for me. And voila, it's the necklace I bought for her years before. And that is okay. I accepted it anyways, but then I did tell her the truth that, Nana, I'm sorry, I'm not accepting this. I purchased this for you. She was not embarrassed. Instead, she started laughing and really just brushed it off because that's who she was. She never really wanted to be upset. She was not somebody to be embarrassed, but to only, she never wanted to be embarrassed, but really wanted people just to see her for who she is and accept her for who she was and her faults and anything that was successful with her. Though, she loved my siblings and I have been told that she would tell my brother and my sister that they were the favorites. I know that I was the favorite. And any single time that I would say to my grandmother before she would hang up the phone, I would say, who is my favorite? And she would say, I'm your favorite, in this very uplifting tone. And though I loved both of my grandmothers, both were very different in their own ways. Nana was probably one of the most kooky women that anybody can ever meet, and I love that about her. I am not at the level of kookiness that Nana was, but I'm not far from it. And all of my friends loved Nana. Everyone thought that she was this unique woman with this personality that radiated with anybody. And I mean, it goes to show that people in the courthouse still loved working with her, whether she was working or sleeping in the law library. But I would say the second most fun memory I have with Nana is she recently, this was a few years ago, she had surgery, and I and my brother wanted to take her to the casino, one of her favorite spots. My mother was very, very against it, told us you better not take her. And what did Mark and I do? We snuck her out and we made sure she had some fun at the casino. So that was a great memory, sneaking her behind my mother, and she had a great time. Though she did not win any money that she had. I did buy a lottery ticket a couple days ago on her behalf, and to my shock, I did win $10 on the instant play, but I did lose the other 2 tickets, but that is okay. But, I mean, anyways, I have been dreading this day for quite some time, and I love my Nana, and I know she will have the very best in terms of internal life, but that's all I can say.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you for this wonderful picture. I spoke to many of you on the phone and learned that we actually have, it's a slight connection, but any connection is valuable. That Bob, you went to Kol Emeth, the synagogue which I've been involved with for the last 41 years. So it goes back a long way, but not quite long enough to have met you. But you had it was before we had a building, but you studied there and you had your bar mitzvah there. So there is some connection there. There may also be another connection. I have had many occasions to go to the courthouse and also to call the courthouse. And although I am not Scottie Pippen, I don't think there's any doubt of that, I'm sure I spoke to her over the phone at least once. So I'm not a complete stranger. When we spoke, and from what everyone has heard here now, first of all, after I spoke to you, I have to tell you, I had this wonderful picture of someone who, as you said, was a hoot, an original, a character. You would not forget her if you met her, even briefly. I think you told me, Jackie, that you worked in Washington, correct? And what were you doing there exactly? I've forgotten.
I started as an intern for a political organization and then was a recruiter.
You were an intern for a political organization, but your grandmother told people in the home that you were actually in the Senate, because Mona was in the business of promoting people, as you said. She promoted people. She also had a very interesting relationship with the calendar, because from what I've heard, every day, or at least every day she was in a restaurant was her birthday. So most of us have only one birthday a year. She had 50, 60 birthdays a year. And on the strength of that, she ate some wonderful, wonderful desserts, from what you told me. I asked you about her cooking, and you rapidly changed the subject. Although you did tell me some of her favorite dishes, I will mention one of them. It's something that I still can't quite fathom, called hot dog goulash. Those of you who've had it, well, I think one of you mentioned that it's amazing how healthy you all are, given the food that you grew up on. But Kanena Hora, you look wonderful, and may you have arichat yamim, may you have long life. She worked at the courthouse for 30 plus years. You talked about how wonderful they were to her, and she was wonderful to them. This is a mutual thing. It's not just them being wonderful to her. When you have relationships, when you have someone like her, you want to be with her. You want to be with her. She's a character. She's positive, as you said. She makes you feel good. She champions people. She roots for them. And when there is someone like that, whether you're members of the family or whether you're colleagues at work, you are drawn to someone like that, and just being with them makes you feel good. And for that reason, the relationship between her and the courthouse was not just them being good to her, but she being good to them, making friends, and I'm quite sure making the lives of the people there be better, and I'm sure more exciting. I'm sure there are other stories that you may not even know about, with Scottie Pippen-like people calling up, and she was not going to be intimidated, even if she, I mean, if someone said, do you know who I am, and they give you a name, even if you don't know it. If someone did that to me, and I know the names of almost no one in sports, but I would say, well, I'm not sure, I don't know, who are you, and so on. But she was not going to be intimidated. She was going to stand up for the law and tell them her name, and tell them, you may be Scottie Pippen, but I'm Mona Sklamberg. So, you'll just have to wait. Anyway, this lovely, remarkable lady who not only is spunky, not only is feisty, but has such a wonderful, close relationship with you, with the person who tragically you lost just 6 weeks prior to her passing. All these wonderful memories that you talked about, and Richard, you talked about being the sickness that actually brought you together with what people you love, and brings you really close to them. The upside of something that is sad and upsetting and debilitating, and yet because of that people get to know and love each other more. That is a wonderful thing, and that's part of her legacy. That's part of the person that she was. I wish I could say something. You are, all of you, reeling from one loss after another, which is so difficult. And I wish I could say something to ease the pain that you must feel. To lose someone, it's like a physical blow. It is like a physical blow. It is exhausting. It's emotionally, as I say, and physically exhausting. And I wish I could say something that would help you. But the only thing I can say is that we have two different feelings when we live in such circumstances. One is the feeling that one has of loss, of the heart being torn, the sadness. That's one. But the other is these memories that so many of you told so eloquently, these wonderful memories that make you feel warm and that make you laugh as you made her laugh. So there's been some laughter here as well. So we have this mixture of tears, as it were, and laughter. What happens as time goes on is that the tears become less. It's not that the pain goes away completely. It never does. Anyone who's had a loss knows the scars remain. But they are scars. They don't press down on us so heavily. And what will remain and in fact grow are these other wonderful, wonderful memories of a wonderful lady, as you said, an Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, a woman of spirit, a woman of love, someone who enriched your life. And also, for those of you growing up who are younger than her, someone who encouraged you, who made you feel that you could do that you shouldn't be afraid of obstacles. She didn't have to say that, but just her personality gave you that. And so we salute her now. She's at peace, as you say. She's reunited with those that she loves and that you loved and that you have lost. And of her I say, Tehei nishmata tzurura b'tzor hachayim. May her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. And to her I say, Mona Nadine, bat Yaakov Leib ve'Esther, lech b'shalom. Geh in Frieden, go in peace. Hobelech in Gan Eden, may your repose be in paradise. You will never be forgotten. You will always be remembered in love by those who knew you and loved you, and those whom you knew and you loved. Amen. And now we are going to recite in English the 23rd Psalm. If you will open your these little booklets, do you have one? Yeah. So would you join me please in reading together? The Lord is my shepherd, everyone. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Could I ask you, please, to stand? If it's difficult for you to stand, please don't. Stay seated. But if you can, please stand. And we're being streamed, is that right? We're being streamed now? Are we being streamed? Yes. So could I ask those of you with the ribbons, which I will tear, if you could come here so that the people who are watching can see this. I'll cut the ribbons for you. And let's see if I can do this with my hands. And I'll say a bracha with you that we say on these occasions. Okay, why don't you come together? Now, this way so that we can take it. So let's say the bracha. If the bracha is exactly the same as the one you know, Baruch atah, etc., it's not in there. But at the end there are two different words, and I will tell them to you. So say with me. Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Dayan
Ha'emes.
which means blessed be the true judge. That's what we say when we suffer a loss. You can go back to your seats, but
Okay.
please remain standing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
El male rachamim, shalchein bamrovnim, hametzei menucha nechona, tachat kanefei ashina, b'malot kedoshim otorim, kzorakim asirim, et nishmat Mona Nadine, bat Yaakov Leib, ve'Esther Bele, shalcha le'olama, bavur, she'anach nodrim nistaka, bi'ar azkarat nishmata, v'gan Eden, tehei menuchata, לכן בלרחמים יסתיריה פסית כנף לעולמים ויצרור החיים את נשמתה אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר אמן. Passionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Mona Nadine Sklamberg, the daughter of Louis and Esther, who has entered eternity and in whose memory we offer charity. May her repose be in paradise. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
You may be seated for just a moment. This concludes our service here in the chapel. Interment will take immediately at the family plots at West Lawn Cemetery in Norwich. Later this evening, the family will be sitting Shiva from 2 to 7 p.m. at the Mission Hills Clubhouse. Memorial contributions in Mona's memory can be made to the St. Jude's Children's Hospital. That information, as well as more information about the Shiva, is available on the folder. For those of you who are joining us on live stream, that information is on the website. In a few moments, we will have a procession forming outside for those who wish to join the family in procession to the cemetery. Please make sure you obtain an orange funeral safety sticker to place on the inside portion of your windshield, as well as a magnetic flag to place on the rooftop portion of your vehicle. While in procession, please make sure your bright headlights, your hazard lights are on at all times. Please drive as closely to the car in front of you as safety permits. Please use your horn liberally, especially while driving through intersections, as we're trying to avoid anyone from entering the procession. At this time, I'm going to call a few pallbearers. If you could please rise and stand next to Mona's casket. Robert Lewenthal, Mark Lewenthal, Mark Olswang, Betsy Olswang. At this time, I'm going to ask everyone to please rise as we escort the casket, the family, and the clergy from the chapel. Okay. Pallbearers, we're just going to follow behind until we... Space.
Behind you to wait over.
No, yes. Until we exit the chapel, if you could just follow behind. And you can go back into the room.
Well, not your loss. Thanks for your support. Keep up the try.